What's up everybody, it's me E-Man from E-Man's Movie Reviews, and today we're going to review Brightburn. Alright, let's jump right into a quick intro. Two desperate parents find an alien baby in the woods and decide to adopt him. Only problem is that he's crazy and evil. Okay, enough of that, let's get right into the good.
The good.
If you're a comic book fan, you'll immediately appreciate the story for this movie. Brightburn gives us a very familiar story as it adapts the origin story of Superman from his arrival to Earth and into his early years of adolescence. Now, obviously this is not actually Superman's story and the characters are renamed and they're only loosely inspired, but you get the point. The positive thing here is that the story does diverge into some new directions that we haven't really heard or seen before. That bit of originality is an automatic plus in my book, seeing as though it's refreshing to get something original, even if it's based on something extremely familiar. It wasn't really hard for Brightburn to get some inspirations to set up the theme and the settings for the film. Brightburn gave us a small town setting that was just like Smallville in the Superman lore. What I appreciated from this was that the small town setting aided in making some aspects of the story more practical and realistic. For example, when things happen in a rural town, you're not going to have a ton of police arrive at an emergency within just a few minutes. Also, gossip will tend to travel pretty fast too. Many of those realistic factors played a nice role in making this story a little bit more intriguing. Another aspect of this movie that I thought was a very nice touch was actually the gory violence. One thing comic book fans have either wished for or at least commented on was that Superman has always held back with his powers. That's usually because Superman is typically a good-natured, empathetic person. However, in Brightburn, the character of Brandon is almost the polar opposite. So we get to see how those Superman-like powers could be used for evil. Now, this is not to say that the violence and gore in itself is enjoyable in the movie. What I'm saying is more so that the level of violence is consistent in what we would expect with an evil being that has the powers of Superman. Now, besides the violence, I think another positive highlight for this movie comes from the cool cinematography. In order to really elevate the sense of danger or even the fear that oozes from Brandon's character, there are some interesting camera shots throughout the film that echo that horror type of element. For example, we get some nice shots of the victims being unaware while Brandon may be in the background with his red glowing eyes. My personal favorite was when we were able to see through a victim's literal bloody eyes right before they encounter Brandon's terrible wrath. Last but not least, but if you stick around to the end, there were some really cool Easter eggs. I thought this was probably the most fun part of the movie, as the scenes with the conspiracy theorists seem to hint at possible future movies and characters. Best of all, if you pay attention to their descriptions, you'll notice how those other characters are very similar to Brandon and his own comic inspiration too. Okay, enough of that, let's get right into the bad.
The bad.
One issue I had was that I didn't think that there was enough time to really flesh out Brandon's character. I felt like there was more of a prioritization in the movie to show evil acts of Brandon rather than showing us why he was actually doing them. What we were given as to the activation of his intentions felt pretty rushed and convenient for the sake of the plot. While it would have been nice to maybe get a bit more detail on his alien background, I don't think that that was completely necessary. However, I do believe that we could have seen a bit more of his character, going from point A to Z in a much more authentic fashion. It's not the worst thing in the film, but it does feel like a missed opportunity. Another issue within Brandon's character was the fact that his motivation seemed a little inconsistent. Yes, we all know that he's evil and all, but it started to get confusing when it came to his actual desires. For instance, one moment he's able to lie to his parents to keep his cover, but in other instances, he won't be as convincing to other people to maintain the same cover. One would think that if he really wanted to keep a low profile, and if he was as intelligent as the movie tries to make him out to be, then he would either be a really good liar or just not care to lie at all. So that aspect of his character really just didn't add up for me. Next up, the overall acting in the movie was okay, but I thought that the writing really didn't do any favors for Elizabeth Banks' character. The writing for the mom tried to put her in a stereotypical mother role that loves her kid no matter what, but it still fell kinda short given the situations that occurred in the movie. Now, it is completely understandable to a point where the mom can keep hope alive when it came to her son, but when the movie gets to the truck accident scene, that was when Banks' character takes a nosedive. What I mean is, what would really help her character be less annoying during these moments is if the situations that she was confronting were a bit more ambiguous, because that would create more reasonable doubt. Because now what ends up happening is that these events are becoming so bad and so obvious that the mom just seems to become more naive and more delusional. Again, I completely understand the motivation within the writing of her character, seeing as though she's always wanted to have children and all that jazz. However, it still makes her character less relatable the more ridiculous the situations around her become and the less she's willing to see them for what they really are. I just think that the execution of that development felt a little bit flat, and for me it made the mom's character less enjoyable. Okay, enough of that, let's get to the reason.
The reason.
Brightburn is the dark Superman story you've kind of always wondered about, but a little bit bloodier than you probably thought. I can't say that this movie would be for everyone, especially if gore and violence aren't your cup of tea. There are some very violent and gruesome scenes that are just not for the faint of heart. Brightburn definitely earns its R rating for that alone. So when it comes to the rating for Brightburn, I've got to give it a 6.5 out of 10. Brightburn is more likely a matinee or a $5 Tuesday type of movie to go watch, mainly because it is targeted for a very niche audience. So if you really like dark comic book stories, then this would be the right movie for you. If you have seen Brightburn, let me know what you thought about the movie in the comments down below. And are you interested in seeing more stories kind of like this within the same universe? Thank you all so much for joining me. I always appreciate you taking the time to watch my videos. Just a heads up, YouTube has been making some changes again in their algorithm. So if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more content from me, please consider subscribing and turning on your notifications. Otherwise, YouTube won't always let you know whenever I post a new video, and you might miss out on some of the fun videos or giveaways that I might do in the future. I've got more videos and reviews to do for you all, and until next time, I'll see you all later.